Hello everybody, great to see you all again and welcome back. Today we are going to be briefly looking at what we call connectors in academic language. So these connectors will really help improve your academic writing skill and ability. So there'll be two parts. One part will be the theory, where I'll walk around and discuss what connectors are, and then the second part is a practical, where I'll show you on a Microsoft Word document some great examples of connectors. So I'll see you very shortly, and see you soon, and stay awesome. Hello everyone, great to see you all. Thanks again for joining me. Today we're going to be looking at what we call connectors or linking words in academic writing. So by learning these words will help improve your academic writing quite substantially, right? Now the first set of words we're going to be looking at regarding linking words are what we call words for adding information. And these words can consist of words such as in addition, moreover, furthermore, as well as, okay, and equally. So I recommend you do use these words in your academic writing, right? When you want to add information, it's really useful for adding the information. It'll make your paragraph and also your academic writing much more academic, right? Try to avoid using simple words to add information such as and also. These are very basic words. I wouldn't really recommend. So once again, try to use these linking words to add information such as in addition, furthermore, moreover, as well as, and also equally. Okay everyone, so let's look at some other connectors you can use. So for contrast, so when you want to consider someone else's opinion in your essay writing or in your paragraph, which is always recommended you do, you can use contrast words such as on the other hand. So on the other hand, you can use conversely. So conversely you can use alternatively, and in contrast you can also use. All right, so these are some words you can use when you want to consider someone else's opinion or viewpoint in your essay. So for example, there are many negative impacts of social media. However, on the other hand, there are also some positive aspects of social media. All right, so always good to use contrast connectors in your paragraph or in your essay, and it will make it more cohesive, more coherent. So in other words, it'll make it easier for the reader to follow what you are trying to say and follow your argument. Awesome. So let's move on to our last set of connectors, which is what we call concession language. And this is where you want to consider the viewpoint of someone else where they have a good point, right? And you can use such words such as even though or although. You can use so even though or although. These are what we call concession words that you can use when you want to consider a different viewpoint that has merit or that has some very good points. Hello everybody, so let's get straight into this short and sweet demonstration, some examples of using connectors in your academic writing. So for adding information, let's have a look at, we have additionally and also in addition. Let's look at the first one. So additionally, my professor is an extremely fascinating person. Additionally, she tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard. So additionally is a good word to use in adding further information. Likewise, number two, we have in addition. So my professor is an extremely fascinating person. In addition, she tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard. So I really recommend you use in addition or additionally, depending on the context of the sentence. And this will really enhance your writing rather than just using like and. That's very basic. Let's move on to number 3. Then we have also is a little bit basic. I wouldn't really recommend you use also. Maybe once or twice you could use it, maybe in a paragraph. But don't you overuse also. It's kind of low level, I would say. My professor is an extremely fascinating person. She also tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard. But also is a useful word you can use. But once again, don't overuse it as it is quite basic. Now, my favorite connectors for adding information, number 4 and 5, furthermore and moreover. These are 2 good words you can use together, actually. You could say, firstly, my professor is an extremely fascinating person. Furthermore, she tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard. Okay? And then for moreover, you can use it in a sentence such as, my professor is an extremely fascinating person. Moreover, she tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard. So I recommend furthermore and moreover. You can use those 2 words kind of together. And what I mean by that is that, for example, furthermore, she tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard. Moreover, she tells some of the most interesting stories about history I have ever heard. So you can use them kind of together, those connectors. Lastly, number 6, as well. So my professor is an extremely fascinating person. She tells some of the most interesting stories I have ever heard as well. And as well is a little bit basic, similar to also. I wouldn't really use that a lot, but it's fine for you to use maybe once or twice. Try to remember when writing your paragraph in your essay, try to use as many different connectors as possible. Don't always use the same ones. And I recommend in addition, furthermore, moreover. These are really good connectors for adding information. Let's move then on to contrast. Remember, contrast is using when you want to consider someone else's viewpoint or opinion, which is important when you write your essay, because you want to critically analyze maybe a topic. You need to consider always both sides of the story. So this is where contrast connectors come in use. So however is a good connector. For example, that man has much money, however he isn't happy at all. Or on the other hand is a good connector for contrast. I like playing football. On the other hand, my brother likes playing basketball. Conversely is a very good connector to use for contrast. His family made a lot of effort to make their son's lessons better. Conversely, he never made any effort. And lastly, we have then in contrast. So in contrast to his big brother, he speaks English very well. So these are good connectors you can use when you want to contrast, when you want to consider someone else's opinion or different viewpoint. However, on the other hand, conversely and in contrast, always good to use. Lastly, then we have concession. When someone else, you're perhaps in your writing, you're considering someone else's viewpoint, and it does make sense to you, it has some valid points. You can always use words such as although or even though. So we have maybe even though unemployment rates dropped, there was no measurable benefit to the local economy. Or we have apart from is a good word for concession. Apart from his lateness to work every week, he was a very hard worker. Okay, so even though, apart, although you can use as well for concession. Okay, everyone, hopefully these tips will help you, and I do recommend you use these connectors as much as you can in your paragraph writing. Remember, You must always try to vary your connectors. Don't always stick to the same ones. Try to vary it as much as you can. Use as many different connectors as possible. And this will make your paragraph stronger, make it more coherent, and make it more cohesive as well. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. And you know the drill. Stay awesome.